Hello everyone, it's Brendan X, your cynical Buddha. Think of me as a black-hearted monk or an enlightened badass. You pick. This channel focuses on the 4 essential ideas that we need to understand and master to survive in a hostile world with our own flaws and limitations. I always like to go over each concept before we get into the meat of today's topic. So let me remind you, meaning, the social, emotional, and cognitive associations and interpretations we put on things and situations to create personal and shared meaning. Boy, that's a mouthful. Basically means our perceptions and interpretations that inform how we understand ourselves and the world. Next comes motivation. Once we figured out what the hell everything means, we become motivated to do something. We become motivated to develop a purpose. A purpose motivates you. Motivation keeps you on your purpose. Now that we have a purpose, because we figured out what the hell everything means, we need to pick good methods to achieve our purpose. Methods are the strategies, tactics, and tools used to fulfill a purpose. Bottom line, find out what works and do that. But we have to contend with madness. Madness is the aspect of life that is crazy, random, stupid, unfair, and sometimes cruel and nasty. Madness can be found in ourselves, in other people, or in the universe itself. So there's 3 things that we can control, 1 thing that we cannot, but we have to adapt to. Those are the 4 M's, meaning, motivation, method, and madness. And let's go on to today's topic. So today's topic is, why does humanity get so messed up? Human beings are very interesting creatures. They are capable of wonderful feats of strength, courage, intelligence, imagination, kindness, compassion. They are capable of rising to heights that are super impressive and just mind-boggling. At the same time, human beings are also capable of being horrible, disgusting, pathetic, evil, just a mess. And it's very, very sad. It's just stunning, that dichotomy between what we're capable of on our best days and what we're capable of on our worst days. It's just shocking. So one thing we need to do is try to understand why we fall so far, why we fall so hard, both as individuals and as communities, countries, nations. How do we reach such heights and then just come crashing down? And that's part of the flaws of human nature. But why specifically? Where do these flaws come from? Why are we messed up? That's the question I'm going to address. But first, let's review some essential truths. Essential truth number 1. Reality exists. The ability to perceive and accept reality as best we can is the foundation for finding truth, understanding, meaning, and success. Failure to do so has severe consequences. Essential truth number 2. Human beings are limited and flawed. Human nature makes it hard for us to correctly perceive, accept, and abide by the truths found in reality, and this causes much suffering. As I said in the last video, we all have what I call the asshole gene. Every single one of us, from Mother Teresa to, I don't know, some schmuck on the corner, we all have the asshole gene. Now, some of us do a better job at restraining and containing it, but it's there. It's there. Now, by asshole, I don't just mean somebody who's rude and aggressive. I mean somebody who behaves often or consistently in a way that is clearly foolish and counterproductive. Imagine that your behavior in any situation, there's a continuum. And in the middle, you're at equilibrium, you're balanced, you're in a place that makes sense. So let's say assertiveness, aggressiveness, okay? If you're hyper aggressive, you're an asshole. You're an arrogant, hyper aggressive, rude asshole. On the other hand, if you go too far in the other direction and you're completely passive and you're just a walking doormat and nobody can depend on you for anything because you just let yourself get walked on all the time, well, then you're a pathetic asshole. See, they're extremes. They're two opposite ends of the spectrum. You want to be in the middle somewhere. You want to be aggressive enough to get things accomplished and protect yourself and your family, but you want to be restrained enough that you don't get into problems or messes over trivial things. You don't want to let somebody walk all over you, but you don't want to freak out if somebody accidentally bumps into you. So this asshole metric, it can apply to any kind of human behavior, because for any kind of human behavior, there's a sweet spot where that's where you want to be, and if you go too far one way or too far the other way, you're kind of being an asshole. So you could not care what anybody thinks. Well, not caring what other people think can sometimes be useful when you're right, or when you are kind of off on your own, freelancing and on the verge of some kind of personal discovery or accomplishment. Okay? So, but if you don't care about what other people think when it affects them, then you're being an asshole. On the other hand, if you can't do anything, if you can't sustain any purpose because you keep changing based on what other people think, like whichever way the wind blows, then you're being an asshole in that direction. So I'm just saying there's many different kinds of assholery, and we all have the asshole gene. It's when we go to extremes, too much or too little of any kind of behavior, which, when balanced, could be useful. Almost every behavior has a context or situation where it's helpful, and a context or situation where that very same behavior is now hurtful or harmful. So we have to try to stay out of the asshole zones on either end of the spectrum. But again, why? Where does this asshole gene come from? Why do we have to work so hard not to succumb to it? Why are we so often a mess psychologically? Okay, let's dig into that. One of the things I've been trying to get across, I haven't hit it directly, but I've been kind of implying it, is things have a dual nature. Okay, it's not static. A particular behavior is not good and always good no matter what, or bad and always bad no matter what, right? Like, is it bad to cut people open with a knife? Well, sure, unless you're a doctor removing a tumor, right? So there's a duality to things, all right? And there's a duality to humanity. We have a dual nature. We are animals, but we are also more than animals. And those two aspects of humanity each have their strengths and weaknesses. Let's talk about our animal nature first. Our animal nature is the part of us that is closest to and most impacted by nature. Like, we were one of the animals. We were one of nature's animals back in the day. Not much different than a giraffe, an orangutan, a tiger, or whatever, any other mammal. So we have animal behaviors hardwired into our brain. Now, animals, contrary to Disney, are capable of all kinds of cruelty and savagery. All right, animals have no morality, none. I'll give you an example. lions in the wild. Okay, they are ruled by the strongest males. If some other males come along and they fight with the dominant males and defeat them and drive them away, that pride now belongs to them. And because our animal nature demands that we survive and pass our genes on, those new rulers of the pride, the new dominant males, well, they want to pass their genes on, and they're not very patient about it. And a lot of the females will not be in heat. Why? Because they have cubs. If you're taking care of your cubs, you're not in heat until they grow up. But nature has no morals. So the new lions will come in and kill the cubs. Little cute little baby animals, Simba, Lion King, yada yada, they'll kill them. And once their cubs are dead, the females, after a little grieving period, will come back into heat, and the new lions can mate with them. So by human standards, that's horrifying. Horrifying that the new male dominant pride leader would kill baby lions, and horrifying that the mother of those baby lions would then mate with the killer of their cub. But that's how nature works. Nature is immoral, savage, and cruel. And we were animals back in the day, and animal nature is still part of our psychological makeup. But we weren't just animals, we were social animals. Okay? We needed to work together to survive and thrive. As human beings, we did not have claws, we did not have fangs, we were not especially fast, our skin was not tough and leathery. We had to communicate with each other, cooperate with each other. We were social animals. And whenever you have animals that are social, that means that they live in a hierarchy. You know, there's a pecking order, the strongest, the weakest. So we have instincts to strive for dominance, or when the situation calls for it, to be submissive. We also have a herd instinct. That might sound rude to say that, but we do kind of operate in a herd. If the rest of the herd goes batshit crazy and runs off a cliff, the odds are we're going to go off the cliff with them. We just have that part. We have that as part of our psychological makeup. So you got all these things swirling around. The potential for savagery, cruelty, navigating hierarchies, striving for dominance, at times being submissive. Those are all part of our animal nature. Humans have been around for like 1 million years, but we've only been civilized for a few thousand years. Okay, so our hard wiring has not had a chance to evolve or change very much, because in the span of genetic history of human beings, 10,000 years is just a little blink of the eye. So we live in a modern world, but a lot of our instincts and responses are still primitive. We have animal emotions: rage, fear, aggression, affection, contentment. But we don't live in an environment that is simple. I mean, back in the day when our ancestors were walking across the savannah with a spear in their hand, you know, if a lion jumped out, that was not a situation that called for a lot of analysis. Fear, rage, throw the spear, run your ass. We live in a modern world when we have to deal with aggression or fear or things like that. There's a lot of layers of complexity, but we still have these ancient responses hardwired into our brain. Another animal emotion hardwired into our brain, our nervous system, our bodies, is to experience pleasure. Nature wanted us to feel pleasure when we did things that would facilitate our survival or passing on our genes, which is why things like eating, comfort, sex, are pleasurable. In a modern world, though, our pleasure centers have trouble coping with how much more intense and on demand all these stimuli are. Fast food, pornography, social media, screen addiction, our ancient settings for pleasure and seeking of pleasure have kind of been subverted by all these modern inventions. And we get messed up by that. Not even mention the drugs and alcohol yet. So again, in some ways, we're just poor, dazzled animals running through a modern landscape, falling into one pitfall or another of addiction or compulsion. The instincts that we have, evolutionarily speaking, passed down, those primitive instincts, they a lot of times come back to bite us. We are sometimes very foolish about picking leaders or picking mates. I mean, we are very gullible. There's some crazy percentage of CEOs that are more than 6 feet tall. Tall people aren't necessarily smarter, but we have this, genetic thing like, oh, tall, big, commanding, leader, yes. Or if somebody's very attractive, but they're a horrible human being, there's pretty privilege where we will give privilege and deference to attractive, physically imposing people. It can undermine our ability to make good decisions about our leaders and our mates. It can be tragic. But we are not just prisoners of our DNA. We evolved to a higher plane of existence than animals. All right? We are animals, but we're much more than animals. We operate on a higher plane of existence. We have a level of self-awareness that most animals do not. We're able to think in abstract terms. We're able to comprehend our mortality. So imagine you have all these instincts for survival, but at the same time, you have this complete clarity that you're still going to die and there's nothing you can do about it. I'm sure that causes a little psychological, emotional friction. Unlike animals, we have imaginations. We have 1 foot in the past, 1 foot in the present, 1 foot in the future. We question our identity. We question our existence. We operate in layers of complexity that animals don't even have any glimmer of. Our ability to have very deep level of perception, to share ideas, to develop abstractions, to create meaning, made us rise to the top of the food chain. It propelled us above animals. But it also made us really neurotic. Psychologically, often, we are a mess. So all the things that make us more than animals allow us to do incredible things, to create literature, exquisite art, incredible skyscrapers. We've split the atom. We've reached for the stars. We've done all these things based on the gifts of our more advanced brain and mind. But like I said, we're pretty neurotic. I mean, animals don't have midlife crises, right? Your average badger is not sitting around being like, man, I've been alive for 6 years, and what have I done with my life? I've just badgered, man. I don't know what to do, right? We don't question our, animals don't question their identities, right? You don't have a penguin sitting somewhere in Antarctica being like, I don't think this is what it's supposed to be. I identify as an eagle. I need to get out of here. I need to go with the eagles. I want everybody in this little herd of penguins, whatever you call a group of penguins, to call me eagle because that's what I identify as. Now, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anybody, but I'm just saying animals don't have the wherewithal to question their own identity. They just are. Like a cow doesn't say, gosh, I'm going to go off to that other pasture, to find myself. And the other cow's like, what the hell do you mean find yourself? You're right here. No. Who I am, what I am. You're a cow, dumbass. So we have all kinds of neuroses and burdens, psychological, emotional burdens that animals don't. No animal is capable of the levels of stupidity, self-delusion, evil, resentment that we are. Now, you might say, well, how can you say we're more stupid than animals? Because animals can be pretty freaking stupid. Okay, let me give you my definition of stupid. Stupid means that you do something foolish or counterproductive when you should have known better, when you could have done better with a little bit of extra thinking or effort. Okay? Animals cannot be stupid because they don't have the level of awareness that we do. They're operating mostly out of instinct. Yeah, some animals are a little bit smarter than others, but it's not fair to say they're stupid when they do an animal thing because they don't have our awareness or knowledge. Human beings are only authentically stupid. And the smarter we are, the more intelligent we are, the greater our capacity for stupidity. A little kid that does something that we perceive as dumb probably isn't being stupid, they just haven't learned yet. But if an adult does the same thing after walking the earth for decades longer, then yeah, that's stupid. Same goes for evil. A cat that, kind of tortures a mouse, those are the cat's instincts. It's practicing its hunting. It doesn't have the self-awareness and the empathy to be like, oh man, gosh, how would I feel if another big animal was batting me around and scaring the hell out of me and wouldn't put me out of my misery or let me go? That would be pretty awful. Yeah, cats aren't capable of that. So the cat that batters the mouse is not really evil, it's just being a cat. Human beings, we know better because we have empathy. We know what hurts us. We know how we would want to be treated, and we know what we would not want to be done to us. But then we have the capacity to use that knowledge, that empathy, to do horrible things to others. So stupidity and evil, those are distinctly human characteristics. So that's part of the reason why we are so messed up, why we struggle, because we've got two brains. We've got our core brain, our animal brain. Some people call it the lizard brain. Then we got our more highly evolved layers on top of that. Sometimes our animal instincts mess us up. Sometimes our animal instincts are right. Sometimes we really are in danger and should fight or flight, but that higher level thinking brain, the one that's capable of self-delusion, will be like, no, everything's fine. Yeah, everything's fine. That's called normalcy bias. So we manifest the worst part of both worlds sometimes. Sometimes we have that animal cruelty, that lack of morality, savagery, but sometimes we have that neurotic, delusional, resentful, stupid evilness, and boom, it's a mix for problems. So why do I keep harping on how messed up humans are? Do I dislike humans? No, I am a human. I love us. I mostly like myself. But it's that dichotomy between what we're capable of on our good days and, oh crap, what we're capable of on our bad days. The range of human experience goes from the gutter to the stars. And there's people who have one foot in both. Like, the rock stars in the 60s that would make the most incredible, inventive, creative, soul-touching music and reach levels of superstardom and then die in their hotel room strung out on heroin and choking on their own vomit. That one person, that one life, that one bundle of experiences. Stars, gutter. So I think that we can proactively examine our perceptions, our interpretations, monitor our behaviors. We can be aware of the pitfalls of human nature to mitigate the downside so our worst days are much less worse, and still maintain those best days, that we can aspire to the stars without ending up in the gutter. How much more music could Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix have provided us if they did not self-destruct? I'm a big fan of striving for nobility and honor and achievement and just overcoming our baser nature and being noble. I think that that is at the heart of a worthwhile life. And it's not that hard to be noble, to be honorable. Based on our nature, if we can just refrain, we can just stop from doing bad things, that in itself is an act of honor and nobility. The Hippocratic oath that doctors used to take in ancient Greece had the line, "First, do no harm." If we can still do a decent amount of good and mitigate how much bad we do to ourselves, the world, and each other, that is an act of nobility. That is an act of honor. Let me give you an example of the duality of human nature, how we're capable of mind-boggling levels of hypocrisy and self-delusion. On one hand, human beings, we need each other, right? We form groups, and within those groups we believe in loyalty and honor, and that it would be horrible to victimize somebody in our group. But we have this little loophole thing in our brain where it's okay to abuse people who are outside of our group. It's the us and them paradigm. The us is we're good, we're family. Them, their enemy. While it would be immoral and bad and I would be punished if I victimized somebody in my group, I get a pass if I hurt somebody else in the them group. Now, the us and them in ancient times, it was probably based on a tribe or maybe a little region, maybe the grass people against the forest people. Then over time, it got bigger, people in a town or against the hill people or people in an empire, people in a country. But then it got all weird, even more so, like one religion against another religion. Like two groups of Christians who believe like 99% of the same thing, but just have this little difference, and they're out killing each other because they've us and them'd the situation. They've made it morally acceptable to hurt other people. That loophole lets us indulge our darker nature, but still feel like we're good people. If we always have this dichotomy, us is good, them is bad. If we are on top and we're holding the them down, well, that's because we're superior and they're inferior. If we are on the bottom and the other group is on the top, even if they're not actually holding us down, even if they're on top because they've just been doing better than us, no. They're oppressors. They're perpetrators. We're down here. We're still better than them, but we're down here because they are cheating. We resent them. It's okay to hurt them now. That has been the pattern in human history. Every single horrible interaction between one group of people and another that has resulted in millions of people killed. Genghis Khan killed like 20 million people. And that was before guns, so that's doing work. He slaughtered Chinese because he felt like the Chinese had exploited and mistreated the Mongolians. There's a quote attributed to him where he basically says, "I'm God's punishment to you. If you were good, God wouldn't let me slaughter you." you had it coming. On the other hand, when we step away from the us and them paradigm, the constructed meaning of us and them, and we see each other as common humanity, doesn't matter your race, your ethnicity, your country, your religion. Some of us are good, some of us are less good. We judge each person based on their individual character, behavior, and accomplishments, results. Well, when we do that, we tend to be a lot more decent and honorable towards each other. See, that's a different meaning. We're stepping away from the tribal, territorial, resentful meaning mindset and pulling back to a humanistic mindset. We're all individuals. We all have individual worth. I judge you as an individual, not by your group. Okay? You're not a hill person, right? You're not a Muslim or a Christian. You're not a German or a Frenchman. You're not a Republican or a Democrat. You're a human being. So when we do that, everything is better. A lot less horrible things happen. The 20th century saw over 100 million people killed because the us and them mentality. And a lot of times it was based on politics. Mao killed like 50 million Chinese people, and he's Chinese. But he was able to themify those people, because they did not obey him or believe in his political beliefs. Imagine killing 50 million of your own people because they think differently than you. That gene is in all of us. So we have to fight that by embracing our common humanity and our individual nature. So you can be a hero, you can be noble, you can be honorable, you can step up just by constructing the right meaning and treating people the right way. Because a lot of bad things happen when you misconstrue meaning. Misconstruing meaning creates madness. And the world has seen a lot of madness. So maybe, just maybe, it would be good in this country if we stopped seeing each other based on group identity. This seems like a good time to remind you of some more essential truths. Essential truth number 3. As individuals, if we accept that reality exists and that human nature is flawed, we must seek truth with a humble and open mind. A humble mind relies on proven insights, principles, and processes to seek the truth. A humble mind relies on proven insights, principles, and processes to seek the truth. Essential truth number 4. As human societies, if we accept that reality exists and that human nature is flawed, we understand the necessity for crafting cultural, economic, and political systems designed to protect us from our imperfect nature. Otherwise, things go badly. So, this is your cynical Buddha, Brendan X. Remember, all you have to do to take a step up in the world, to be a little bit noble, to be a little bit honorable, to be a little bit helpful, is do less harm, construct meaning using the right principles and understanding of history. For example, you could understand that history is an unending succession of people doing bad things to each other based on group identity and the us versus them paradigm. A worthwhile principle might be, hey, on some level, we are all us, and we need to treat each other with respect and decency based on our individual behaviors. You know, like that guy Martin Luther King said. You don't need to climb a mountain to do something impressive, to achieve something great. Just being a good, honorable, decent human being is doing something great. Go forth and be honorable. Peace out.